Comrade Banyaza Yusufu, and a whole lot of other people who are in leadership positions in the Alliance, and the media, and people in academia and others. This is a welcome opportunity, and I'd like to thank the SG as well as Comrade Mahlengi for organizing an opportunity like this. This is being billed as a pre-setter, if you like, for tomorrow's rally that we are going to have in Soweto, where we will be presenting a review of the implementation of our 2019 manifesto. So we want to thank you for being part of this occasion. Now, since the first democratic elections in 1994, the ANC has sought to develop its manifesto through thoroughgoing consultations across society, and has never seen that process as being a mere ANC process. It has engaged all of society, and it has done so through various forums. From the first People's Forum, where South Africans from across the country and across the social spectrum were able to articulate their concerns as well as their wishes. The ANC has always sought to involve our people in putting forward views. In doing so, the ANC has drawn on the tradition of consultation and engagement that it has learned over the years throughout history, and especially in 1955, when the Congress of the People got together in Cape Town here in Gauteng to draft the iconic document, which is the Freedom Charter. That process took a number of months to arrive at, so we've learned from that. We also remember the extensive consultation that we went through as South Africans as we drafted our constitution. So this engagement today is part of that tradition. However, it is slightly different because it is new. We are traversing new ground ourselves to have a pre-review type of process where we consult and engage with a number of people such as yourselves from all walks of life to reflect on the implementation. And as our moderator has said, and including the SG, to have an honest discussion, an open discussion about what we have done and what we have not been able to do. And through this, we are hoping that we will be able to contribute a number of ideas that will also help in shaping and forming the 2024 election manifesto. We also know that not everyone who's here is a member of the ANC, and we welcome that. We welcome views that do not only emanate from the African National Congress members or even supporters. We also welcome the views of those who are very critical of us, and at times bitterly critical. We welcome those views as well. But nevertheless, we do value those views, as I say. Just over 4 years have passed since the ANC received a mandate from the people of our country to undertake fundamental transformation of our country in a number of ways. Next year, the people of our country will once again have an opportunity to go to the polls, to go and choose the party that they believe, or indeed individuals, now that we have that, should lead their country. So this for us is therefore an appropriate moment for all of us, including the Alliance, to have this review. Now, in undertaking this review process, the ANC wants to understand why we made progress and why in certain instances we were not successful in making progress. And we need to reflect on whether the actions contained in our 2019 manifesto were appropriate to the objective that we wanted to achieve. If they are, then what else must we do to hasten the process of implementation? In 2019, we adopted a manifesto which was underpinned by the slogan, "Let's grow South Africa together." And through that, we were trying and seeking to get South Africans to work together so that we can grow the country together. And it was based on 7 priorities. The first being transforming the economy so that the economy can serve all in our country. Second was advancing social transformation. And the third was stepping up the fight against corruption. And the fourth was building safer communities. And the fifth, building and renewing a capable and developmental state. And the sixth was advancing nation building and social cohesion. And building the seventh, building a better Africa and a better world. Now this manifesto review is a learning exercise for us. It is one of the ways in which we are improving effectiveness in the ANC or of the ANC as an agent of fundamental social change. At the center of the 2019 manifesto was a commitment to work to transform our economy. This was reaffirmed at our 2022 National Conference. Specifically, we undertook to focus on interventions that would promote a developmental growth path to create more jobs and to have more decent jobs. As we undertake this manifesto review, we want to give some attention to the issues of employment. Not only do we need to track the employment figures over the last 4 years, we also need to understand our own labor market, the focus that shapes it, and focus rather on the forces that shape it, the way it has changed, where the impediments to faster job creation lie, and where opportunities may well be found, particularly as we look at new sectors of our economy. So in this discussion, we need to acknowledge the massive damage that was caused to our economy and our society by some of the devastating processes that we've been through, COVID-19 being one of them, and the 2021 unrest being another, climate change process that manifested itself through floods being another, and how we responded as a government to try to address the challenges that our people were facing. Now, just as the pandemic and other interventions weakened our economy, it also put severe pressure on public finances, and that made it difficult for us to address everything we needed to. And it is significant and welcome that the economy is now larger in GDP terms than it was before the onset of the pandemic. We are having to make up lost time in the creation of jobs. As many of you will know, we lost up to 2 million jobs just in the period of 1.5 years. So whilst COVID was damaging, we need to ask ourselves a number of other questions, whether we were able to make progress across those areas or not. If you look at our manifesto 2019, we set out almost 220 21 commitments, which were delineated around the economy, social transformation, as I said, safer communities, corruption, the fight against corruption, capable state, and a united and diverse South Africa and a better Africa. We have been able to make progress in a number of things, and some have been achieved, and some are still in progress. For instance, out of the issue of transformation of our economy, we set out 102 commitments, and we've been through them all and identified each one of them, and have been able to see and track what progress we've made. We have been able to complete 10 of those, and 86 are in progress. Some nearing full completion, and some on the way, meaning that we've had a situation where work has been done and is being done, notwithstanding the diversions that we experienced along the way, COVID, the unrest, the floods, and many other bad situations that we had to face. On social transformation, we set out 51 commitments, and 12 clear of those were achieved, and 36 are in progress. So you could say it's mixed, but progress is being made, and only one represents no progress whatsoever. And so it goes with building a capable state, and so it goes with fighting corruption, and so it goes with seeking to have a united and diverse South Africa. We have therefore made progress, and we've also looked at our performance against a 30-year backdrop. What we inherited in 1994 and where we are today. And many will admit that South Africa today is a vastly different country from what we inherited in 1994. And during the course of the conversation, I'm sure we can go through a number of areas where progress has been made or where it has not been made. But what should be clear, and people often say that do not blame the past, what should be clear is that in 1994, that shadow of apartheid has continued to cast its shade or its shadow on everything that we have sought to do. The damage that apartheid wrought on our people's lives is huge. And what this democratic government has sought to do in this whole period is to undo the damage that apartheid did. And if you look at the various elements, and we can dissect them all, we can see what has been done. For instance, to give a good example, 1994, only 36% of our people had access to electricity. Today, it is 90%, closer to 93%. I was talking to the premiers yesterday. Some of them were saying there are still areas in our provinces where electricity has not fully penetrated. And that's precisely the task that we have. So there's been great achievement. There is still a lot of work to do, which makes us remember what Nelson Mandela wrote in his book. I have climbed many hills and I've reached the summit of a big hill. But as I look at the vista, there are still many more hills that I have to climb. And this is exactly where we are. I'm happy that we should start looking at a number of aspects: education, health, social development, crime, and building a capable state. In the conversation, I think we should invite you to look at whether those 7 priorities that we set out were achieved or not. And this is just by way of introduction, and I'm very happy to be here to engage as openly and as honestly with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for laying the ground for the discussion that we're going to be having today. I'm going to take my moderator's prerogative and ask a question of my own before opening it up to the floor. The review document acknowledges, and I quote here directly, "We present this 2019 manifesto review discussion document mindful that things are very difficult for many families and households, and we must redouble efforts to address the concerns of unemployment, corruption, electricity, crime, gender-based violence, and basic services," and close quote. When you look at the last 4 years, could you give us an assessment of where you think, and from the review that's been done, you spoke to us about the manifesto, what was in the manifesto that is complete and that's in progress, and indeed 46% of the manifesto commitments had to do with the economy. Can you tell us what you are proud of having achieved over the last 4 years, and what, in your view, you think requires greater focus in the next 5 years?
But I'm pleased with the manner in which we navigated our way through the disasters that befell our country over the past 4 years. As we got into government, little did we know that we would have COVID. That would lead to us shutting the entire country. That would lead to the death of 100,000 South Africans and many more who were ill. That would lead to a loss of 2 million jobs. And that would lead to exacerbating poverty. The response that we had to that calamity was historic, unprecedented, never before seen in our country, where we were able to embark on interventions that in money terms amounted to about 11% of our GDP, laying out assistance and support to those who were affected, and all of us were affected by COVID, where we were able to support working people and laid out 70 billion rand, and where we were able to support ailing businesses, and where we took an unprecedented step of also supporting the unemployed and the poor. When it came to our grants, we immediately added a little bit of money to the grants that we were paying for a while, because we knew that families were under stress. But we also introduced a new grant, which is the SRB grant, which is called the 350 Rand grant. And wherever I go in the country, people keep talking about that. But that grant lays the basis, lays the foundation for a future basic income grant. For that immediately exploded us on a new policy trajectory. We have extended it over time, and now we have to countenance the issue of introducing a basic income grant, obviously within what we can afford. What we also did was to introduce other supportive measures. We supported the employment or experience gathering, if you like, of young people. We brought 800 100,000 young people into our schools. And they have played an enormous role. And this was the biggest public employment process at one go that our country has ever seen. And we then went on to get into other programs like agriculture, environment and all that. And we supported closer to 300,000 farmers, small-scale farmers, with assistance measures like vouchers, seed for seeds, and also fertilizers. So this whole period, as we were going through enormous distress that we felt the whole world, we were able to come up with measures. And this amount I'm talking about, almost 11% of GDP, does not include what we had to lay out to get PPEs, though there were many challenges where people who with corrupt intent did funny, really sad things. But where we laid out the biggest vaccine program ever seen in the history of South Africa, where we were able to get so many of our people vaccinated. Now, the other place of pride for me was how, within a short space of time, like 6 weeks, we were able to establish an IT-based system that was able to pay 10 million people, even if it was just at 350. Unprecedented, never done on our continent, certainly. So much as the pandemic was a real testing moment, I am rather pleased with the way that we navigated our way around that.
And what aren't you so proud of?
What I'm not proud of is the way we did not anticipate that there would be corruption as we rolled out the personal protective equipment. That depressed me immensely. And I paused for a while and said, should we not have centralized the distribution of PPEs like we did with vaccines? With vaccines, many companies kept coming. We can get vaccines, and we refused. We said, no, only the state is going to do it. And that is why we were able to set up a vaccine rollout process where we work together with labor, with business, and communities. And we had the religious sector also involved. And that one was well managed. And I would say that it is when we work together, when we manage processes together with various components of our community, that we are able to do better. What I'm also pleased with is the unrest that we had in 2021, because that followed soon after we were dealing with COVID. That was devastating. We didn't manage it well. Our security forces were not prepared for it. And so that to me was a dark blot. And then the floods. When we had floods, we tried the best we could. Not as prepared as we should have been, but we are getting better. And our emergency services are getting a lot better. And I saw them with the fire in Johannesburg. They responded within 10 minutes of the fire that broke out. Meaning that we are gaining quite a lot of capability, and we are spreading that message around.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. President. I suppose, and I imagine I'm going to open up now to our media colleagues, is that the issues of corruption had been a big issue already before COVID-19, so it seems unsurprising that it would have been a big issue in terms of the procurement process for COVID-19.
This corruption is a big issue. The decision we took to establish the State Capital Commission was a correct one, and it was supported all around by everyone. The commission cost a lot of money, and it's come up with a report, and we as government have responded to the recommendations that we are implementing. Many people in our country often say and allege that we are not really implementing those recommendations. All sectors that were identified by the Commission, including Parliament, is busy with that, various departments of the government, even the governing party, the ANC, committed itself to implementing a number of the Commission's reports, where, for instance, its leaders were fingered. There's a process that is underway to deal with that. So, a number of iterations are underway to implement that, including recovering money that was stolen and strengthening entities that were completely destroyed. SARS is one of those, the NPA is one of those, and the Hawks is one of those, and many other institutions. And of course, our state-owned enterprises are also under repair, and we are working on those, from ESCOM, Transnet, PRASA, and all the others. So they too became enmeshed in the state capture process, and what we've been doing is to unravel and undo those things that were done badly in those institutions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to open up to our colleagues from the media. There are 3 mic points, one to my right, one in the center, and one to the left. Anyone who would like to ask, I see Ferial, I can see you over there, I can see you, Karine, on my left. If you would please walk up to the mic on the left-hand side close to you. And then I can see you, Buttenzai, and then Christian at the back. Okay, so we'll take these 4. And please introduce yourself and the media house you're from. Jessica?
Good morning, Mr. President and Stembele. Thank you very much for having us here. It seems clear from many polls that the ANC might not achieve a simple majority come 2024. I was wondering, sir, who you felt your national coalition partner might be, and how do we achieve, you're smiling, and how do we achieve a center of politics in South Africa, not a centrist, but a center that holds our country together. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Ferial, and the succinctness of that question. Karine, shall we take the 2 and then we will allow you an opportunity, Mr. President. Karine?
Is this my okay? Yes. Thank you, Stembele. It's Karine Duplessis from Reuters. Mr. President, I have a question to you with regards to, it's quite a recent question about the events of the week. What are the ANC's policies with regards to housing and the management of immigration going forward in order to, because those were 2 issues that came up this week, to avoid tragedy like we've seen this week. And also, I think we also asked about the coalitions. How does the President think we can manage coalitions better so that we can actually have cities that work? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Karine. So there's 2 questions there. The one set around what may happen after the elections next year, so not directly to the manifesto from 2019, but certainly in the evolution of the country's politics that we've seen since then, and to the issue around coalitions. But then I think there's a very important set of questions around the challenges of housing, immigration that we have. There were a number of commitments in the manifesto around housing and expanding housing stock. Can you please speak to those?
Well, thank you very much. The ANC is going to achieve an outright majority. So clearly, we are not working to be in coalition. But if we have to choose a coalition partner, we will choose the ANC to be our coalition partner. We are confident that we are going to emerge victorious. People of our country, the majority of the people who have always voted for the ANC and who supported the ANC, still see the ANC as the only vehicle that, having commenced and started the transformation process in our country, can continue with it and consolidate it and make it better. Many of our people don't see any other vehicle that can do so. The ANC is a party that has wall-to-wall coverage of the country and existence through our 4,500 or so branches, is in every area of our country, ward, street, pathway, in the villages and in the cities. So we are confident that we will win an outright majority. And we are going to be aided and abetted in all this by our alliance partners, workers of our country, under the banner of COSATU, who will support us and will also be the campaign process, and also the South African Communist Party, SANCO, and a number of other organizations are going to be on the ground, in the field, and reporting to our people as we are doing tomorrow. And by the way, tomorrow's review process is going to be rolled out throughout the country. And this is a unique process by any party in our country, which is going to culminate in us drafting our manifesto. How can we better manage coalitions? Deputy President Paul Mashatile held a forum in Cape Town where he invited a number of parties to discuss the issue of manifestos. And one of the key issues that emerged there is that we need to have a threshold, and that was discussed, and the declaration that was eventually published also will be adding to the understanding that we should have as South Africans on how to manage coalitions. And if you like, I mean, from day one of our democracy, the ANC always had one or other party as a party that we govern with on an invitation basis. And that tradition has continued. I don't necessarily think you can call that a coalition, but we've been well practiced in working with other parties and on an invitation basis. This time around, we're confident we're going to have an outright majority, and what happens after the elections is what we will determine then. Karine, on the question of housing, what happened in Johannesburg was quite devastating and very, very sad. Now, it's a multi-layered problem that Johannesburg is having to deal with. Spent quite a bit of time with the mayoral committee members, our regional chairperson, Dada Murero, the premier, Panyaza Lesufi, discussing all these matters that give rise to challenges, not only to Johannesburg, but to the big cities, particularly the metros. Cape Town is having the same problem, Johannesburg, eThekwini, and a number of others, where there's a lot of influx, not only from foreigners, but also from people in our own country who throng to the major cities because they are the hubs of economic activity and seek to get accommodation. Now, with the budgetary constraints that we have in terms of rolling out housing, we've had limitations and have not been able to address the increased influx of people in Gauteng, for instance. Gauteng has grown up to 15 million people, and with many of them not having adequate housing and living in informal settlements. And that has now led to people taking over buildings in our cities, But the saddest part is where buildings are hijacked and taken over illegally, and those criminals who hijack the buildings then start levying exorbitant rentals to vulnerable and poor people. Now, the local government has to enforce the laws. I am told that with regard to that building, which is a city-owned building, which used to be an old government building, that's where 55 years ago or so I went to take my passbook. It's Albert Street. I still remembered it when I saw it. But the building is so old and parts of it is not safe. And the local government sought to take people out, but it was stopped by either a court process or by NGOs. So there are laws that now need to be enforced. And we therefore need to deal with how those people who should not be living there are accommodated. Now, of course, a number of them do not even have permits to be in Johannesburg or in South Africa. So that's an added challenge that we have to deal with. But nonetheless, this has given us a wake-up call, and I have said that our cities and municipalities must now pay attention to how people live. We do encourage people to live in the inner city so that we densify